Hi, I'm Jim Kouzes. I'm the Dean's Executive Fellow of Leadership at Santa Clara University's Levy School of Business and co-author with Barry Posner of Credibility, How Leaders Gain and Lose It, Why People Demand It, as well as the Leadership Challenge and Leadership Practices Inventory.
I'm Barry Posner. I'm Professor of Leadership at the Levy School of Business at Santa Clara University.
Our research, we asked people to tell us what they looked for and admired in leaders, people whose direction they would willingly follow, with a key emphasis on willingly, so someone that they would want to follow as opposed to have to follow. And when people told us their answers, what they looked for, the first thing on the top of the list was an honest person, someone who was an honest individual. Second was someone who was forward-looking. Third, competent, had expertise. And fourth, inspiring, dynamic, upbeat. Those four things are what people most look for and admire. Of those four, three, honest, competent, and inspiring, make up what researchers call source credibility. That is why somebody is believable when they speak.
One is we think the format's much more streamlined. The part of the streamlining comes about because we put together a new book, Strengthening Credibility, that accompanies the book on credibility, which provides a number of activities and exercises and opportunities to really sit down thoughtfully and think about how you'd put all these disciplines into practice and sustain that effort over time. We've also added significantly new data. More than 90% of the cases are new, and the ones that aren't new just are in there because historically they just make a nice point about, well, we said this 20 years ago and we're still saying it today. Things haven't changed. And part of that additional data is that this edition is, of course, much more international. It's much more global in its scope, not only from the data that we've collected around the world, but from the stories that we tell. So it's not just exclusively United States based, but there's stories from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, people in all kinds of industries and all kinds of organizations. It's really, over the last 20 years, there hasn't been much written about credibility. And I think that what Jim and I have provided this time around not only is as relevant as it was 25 years ago, but fills an important need in the marketplace today. We just don't emphasize enough the importance of this relationship between the leader and his or her constituents, and how that in the end the job of the leader is to be the kind of person that each of us would aspire to be, and to set an example for others to be the leaders of the future.
We use this notion of credibility every day when we're watching the news and we're listening to newscasts, or when we're taking advice from a salesperson or a marketing person, or we're at our doctor's office and we're listening to prescriptions about our own care. So credibility is something that's important across all kinds of professions and domains. But it's important to emphasize how important credibility is to people wanting to follow a vision of the future. You can have the most inspiring, uplifting, engaging vision of the future, ennobling vision of the future possible. But if you as a leader don't have the credibility to deliver that message to your audiences, to your constituents, people aren't going to be willing to follow you.
It is the truth of what we've called the first law of leadership, one of the first things that we wrote together, and it peppers throughout this particular book. And that first law is, if you don't believe the messenger, you won't believe the message. And I think that that's one of the most important, it's one of the most important themes that comes through this book and comes through all of our writing.